While exploring the southernmost section of the Commonwealth, we stumble upon a raider sitting down next to a statue. We see that he's been really working on this statue. He's painted it all up, put graffiti everywhere, really worked it over. There are tools lying out, including a blowtorch, tools he's been using to disfigure the thing. He's got a small little camp here with a suitcase filled with raider gear. And if we follow the road south from this point, we come upon a small farm. This is called Somerville Place, and it's owned by a farmer and his 2 children.
Hey, we could really use your help.
What do you need?
Something nasty's living just around the corner from here. It's only a matter of time before there's some real trouble. Now, what's really too bad is it'd be a nice spot for a new settlement. In fact, I know some folks that'd love to set up there if it was safe.
If you can make sure the old workshop there is still in one piece, anyone who decides to move in later will be able to rebuild.
Where is this place?
Well, we have a pretty good idea. I hope you can find them and wipe them out.
After helping these guys out, they offer to join the Minutemen. With Somerville Place as a Minuteman settlement, we can fortify it, rebuild it, and turn it into a bastion of civilization in the wasteland. Welcome to my Somerville Place. I've been working on this settlement off and on for many months now. I've been so preoccupied with my lore videos that I haven't had a chance to do settlement videos recently, but here you go, this is my latest settlement. Somerville Place is one of the rainiest settlements in the entire game. It's almost always raining here. I have a brief moment of sunshine to show you the settlement, but I guarantee it'll start raining soon. Taking a look at the map, we see that it is one of the most southerly settlements in the entire game. The only one that is farther south is Murkwater Construction Site, but Somerville Place is closer to the glowing sea, which is right over there. So it is out in the middle of nowhere. But I wanted to make sure that the Minutemen were well represented everywhere, so I've got this place as a nice fortified settlement. One of the first things you'll notice is that there's a junk wall all the way around the settlement. And if you're familiar with my other settlements, you'll remember that I don't usually fortify my settlements by putting walls around them. And that's because I'm trying something different with my settlements. In the past, I didn't really worry about walls for game mechanics reasons. During attacks, enemies will spawn from markers that are sometimes outside the settlement, but oftentimes inside the settlement, which means that if we have a walled settlement, they spawn within our walls, which really make walls unnecessary. However, this time, I wanted to go for the aesthetic. Of course, it's going to look better as a settlement with a wall all the way around it, and so that's what I did. I put a wall all the way around it, even up here on the higher portion, and then I had it climb down, and it was a bit tricky. I had to use place everywhere to get this wall to look right, but I think it turned out pretty good. And it's a pretty large settlement. It takes up a huge square, a big chunk of land, as you can see. And I walled the entire thing. I wanted to maximize the amount of space that we had here. I even brought the wall all the way down to the water so that it's almost touching it. So the entire thing is fortified. Now, another thing that I had a lot of fun with is this big entry gate. There's one road leading into the town here, and as you can see, it's, poorly paved after 200 years, but it does work. I've got my provisioners, and they're going to and from the town, and they go in and out of this gate. So I wanted to have one big, nice gate, and I wanted it to feel protected. So I put this big construction over the top of it, and I'll show you how I went about doing it. Wow, it's busy here. Morning, everybody. So this is my guard tower gate. It's a little bit different. This side is an actual tower, and you can go inside of it. So I've got 2 levels to it, and I haven't decorated it, but I imagine this is going to be the town's armory. I hadn't had time, but what I plan to do is put weapon racks on the walls here, and then put a bunch of weapons all over the place, and then containers down here filled with weapons so that settlers can grab them when they're under attack. Ran out of time, I'll do that later. Then I wanted to make sure that The height advantage that these guys had was stable and supported, so I put scaffolding down there. Goodness, these Brahmin. And I have 2 little watchtowers up here. I had a lot of fun putting this together, so you can see I used the balcony from the vanilla scrap toolkit, and then I just took 2 balconies and put them back to back to make this little watchtower shack. Then I filled in the sides with these railing pieces, and then I plopped down one of the new guard towers that came with Vault-Tec Workshop. It's thin, it didn't take up too much room, and I can walk behind it. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out. And then I did the same thing over here. So I've got 2 guards overlooking the entrance, overlooking the road, and they're just standing at their guard tower, doing their thing. Now, I have a number of these little turret stands over here. I came up with this idea a long time ago, and I really like the way it turned out. I just use some of these iron posts with the round wedge floors from Wasteland Workshop, and then snapped them into a circle and made these little turret towers. I have 3 in total. I'll show you all of them. But yeah, these guys are pretty well protected at night. And then I've got these wonderful spotlights on the outside. This is a dark settlement. It's 10 in the morning right now, 11, so it's almost noon, and look how dark it is. It's just because the weather makes everything dark. So having it well lit was pretty important. Alright, moving on into the bulk of the settlement. I really enjoyed this campfire that came with the settlement. I didn't want to get rid of it. So all I did is I put some chairs around it and put a big cooking spit over it. Looks like Trash Can, Carla, and Cricket are really enjoying themselves here. I have this Bunker Hill trading post here. I typically don't like these for this exact reason. These Brahmin are really noisy and they get stuck, but this is my little trading hub right here. I figure if this is going to be a destination spot in the southernmost part of the Commonwealth where traders are going to go, well, they're going to have a reason to come here. And the reason for coming here is, of course, trade. So I've got a spot here for the wandering traders to come and trade, and then I've got a small little Minuteman outpost here. I've got the flag here, and then you just walk across this tiny little footbridge to the main shopping center. And then I have one of each type of shop. Clothing, weapon, bar, general, and armor. I also have a chem shop, but that's somewhere else. I'll show you where that is later. I like how this turned out. It's walled off so that people aren't going to fall off, and there's plenty of room for the merchant to get back here and man his or her stall. One of the tricky things about building on the settlement is that it is sloped. So I had to build everything on stilts. This big flat area I had to build on stilts, and then the distance between the floor and the ground was so tall that the regular vanilla tile wouldn't work. It would have looked like it was floating. So instead I put some floating platforms and then gave the illusion that they're attached to the ground by using these posts that came with Far Harbor. So that's their little trading workshop, a trading area, and then this is the little workshop. I just wanted a tiny little shack over here, and inside I've got the main fusion generator. This is what's powering the entire settlement, produces 100 electricity. I believe this came with Wasteland Workshop, and it just makes power much more compact, and I decorated it up with a scrap station and a tiny little tool chest. Not a lot of decorations. You'll notice that with this settlement, I didn't spend a lot of time decorating. I have more fun building the infrastructure of the settlement and not necessarily decorating it with too many doodads. I did do some decoration, but I didn't go hog wild like I typically do. Now, this is the old house, as you can see. And I wanted to leave it for the family that was here, the original family. So I didn't do much on the inside. I gave them each their own bed. These are the kids' beds, and they have a few toys laid out on them. And then I decorated up some of their shelves with some toys. And then there's the dad's bed. And then over here, I just have a large area. This right here is an animation marker. I didn't want to put anything there because the kids will come in here at night and sit down in this corner. So I didn't want to block that up with a lot of stuff. I just put a broom down. I've got some cats. This settlement has a lot of animals. And if you decide to transfer this into your game, using transfer settlements, you can choose to transfer the animals as well. But yeah, the smoking nook over here with cigars, and then a TV nook over here. And then here's the farm. I built a chicken wire fence all the way around the farm just to enclose it off. And I've got these gates here to try and make it so that the settlers can walk in and out. But yeah, then you get this problem. They just find a corner and they walk into that corner and they keep walking. Look, this guy's doing it too. So this is just a problem if you try to fence anything in. The settlers are dumb. And they'll just completely ignore all of the wonderful gates you've built for them in literally every side and just walk right in. So, frustrating, but what can you do? Now, if you've seen any of my other settlements, you'll recall that I like to plant a lot of carrots. And I do have some carrots here. My reason for planting carrots is that they're short, and when a settler is down here picking them and farming them, you can actually talk with the settler without looting the crop. But I wanted this to feel like a more fleshed out farm, so even though I prefer carrots for practical reasons, I decided to plant some youth fruit and some corn and some potatoes, so it's a more fully rounded farm. I've got this little water pump over here. I used OC Decorator to hang that bucket on it, and it turned out pretty good. Alright, let's go around in a big loop and I'll show you some of the structures. Here's the first one. This is the clinic. Chems, doctor, eye care, barber. Heading on up here, we've got a big drug sign outside. And going inside, we've got a lot of useful shops. Here's the chem merchant. I'm using one of these new bars that came with... Well, this was a... I forget if this came with Vault-Tec Workshop or if it was just an addition later, but... yeah, this is one of the different shops that they have, and I have a mod that's decorating it up. This is part of a mesh, so it's not going to appear in the mod list for this settlement if you choose to import it into your game. So yours won't look like this unless you install the mod. But I've got my chemist here. She's ready to fulfill your order. And then here's the Phoropter, and the guy getting ready to examine your eyes. Not sure where my barber went. She was standing right here, but this does work. So there is the personal care section, and on many of these buildings I created this staircase. And the reason is because settlers like to appear on the roofs all the time. While I was building the settlement, it was frustrating. Oh, there she is. There's the barber. I wonder why she's sitting down there. It was frustrating. I would be working on the settlements and the settlers would just appear on the roofs. And so I built these staircases to allow them to get down. And I tested them all. I made sure that the settlers did actually use them. Pro tip, settlers don't like using ladders and staircases to get off of the roof unless it's this one. And I don't know why. I tested this by making a variety of different ramps and staircases attached to roofs to try and get the settlers down, but 100% of the time, the only one they ever used was this ladder right here with the connected platforms. So finding a way to work that in was the only way I could get them to actually use the stairs to climb down from the roofs. Okay, yeah, we got some sort of weird issue here. She's floating in the air. She should be inside working her barber stand. Alright, ghosts in the machine. Alright, then we've got some housing. And one of the things that I wanted to do with the settlement is, since it's so far south, I imagine that it's pretty far away from the Minuteman's resources. The castle's pretty far away, so I didn't want to use a lot of concrete or high-tech stuff. You're not going to find a vault here. You're not going to find lots of concrete platforms. That's because I imagined all of that would just be too heavy to transport. So this settlement I intentionally made with a lot of scrap wood and scrap metal. And since this part of the settlement is all built on a hillside, well, all of the buildings have to be built on stilts. So I also wanted a bit of variety, so each of these buildings is a little bit unique. Yeah, this is the first one, and it's a typical little cottage using the Far Harbor tile set. And each of these houses is able to house 4 people, so I have 4 beds down. This bed, of course, I believe counts for 2. I think that came with Vault-Tec Workshop, and then these 2 count for for each for one. I sparsely decorated it, powered it up, gave it a lot of lights, and we'll move on down to the next one. I had a lot of fun putting this together. I noticed that there are not very many people who use the shack metal tile set. At least I haven't. I rarely use it, and the reason is because it's clunky and cumbersome and hard to get right, and even when you finish it, the walls on the inside aren't flat, so you can't hang portraits. There's a lot of issues with that tile set, but I did want to use it. I like the look of it when it's done, and so I made one of my houses, and I'll show you what I did. I basically just made a small strip of flooring using the elevated floors on stilts. Then I did the shack metal balconies and wrapped them around these elevated floors, and that ended up turning it into this little pod, a floating pod, which I really enjoy how it turned out. 4 beds. It houses 4 different settlers. I gave them containers to store their goods and decorated it up a little bit and put some lights. This is giving me a Mr. Rogers Neighborhood feel. I like it. Oh, is the sun coming out? Again, thank you. We'll get these brief moments of sunshine here. The settler's in my way. All right, now here's the big shack. This is what I'm really one of the things I'm most proud of. This is the entertainment shack where we've got slots, food, and drink. I originally had billiards on there, but I ran out of space in the shack for a billiard table. Like the other house, this one has a staircase leading to the roof to get the settlers down, so they come down on their own. I never have a problem with them climbing on top of the houses for some reason, but they do climb on top of the clinic and on top of this one. So I built these staircases, and here's the staircase leading inside. And this is where everyone's oh, of course there's a Brahmin in here when I choose to shoot the video. All right. Well, this is the shack. I had a lot of fun with this. One of the reasons I'm using all of these slot machines, there are 2 reasons. Number 1, gambling is fun. I can imagine settlers doing a lot of gambling. And number 2, these increase happiness. Depending on the choices that you made within the Vault Tech Workshop DLC, these can either decrease happiness, harm your settlers, or there is an option for a slot machine that increases happiness. These are fairly inexpensive to build. They don't take up a lot of room, and so they're a wonderful way to increase happiness in your settlement. I managed to get my settlement up to 100 happiness. I'll show you my stats really quickly. For those who are familiar with my previous settlements, you'll recall that I used to have 36 settlers per settlement, and that number was fairly arbitrary, but the reason I chose it is because it was the maximum number of settlers I could get based on my character's charisma. Well, I've also created a settlement happiness calculator. I did a lot of math to figure out exactly what you need to always get 100 happiness. My settlement happiness calculator is in the description below, so you can click on that. Anyway, I discovered that the optimal number is actually 24. 24 settlers is going to make it so that your settlement feels large. There are plenty of settlers in it, but you don't have so many settlers that it drags down your settlement happiness. One of the big things that drags down a settlement happiness is overpopulation. And I found that the magic number is 24. So I have 24 settlers in this settlement, and as you can see, we've got 100 happiness, 24 beds. It's self-sufficient, self-supporting, 24 food, and 26 water. But going back inside, I've got a little drink mixing stand here, which you can assign settlers to. This is also from Vault Tech Workshop. Increases happiness. Tends to be a settler hangout spot as well. Some tables where they can sit down and enjoy their meals. A glitched out Brahmin, of course, because that always makes things fun. And a bar. I really enjoy how the settlers will come up here and sit down at the bar and get some drinks and hang out in this area. So, that's a little entertainment shack. They're all out working, though, because it's the middle of the day. I'll come back at night, show you what it looks like there. So, I've got 3 more houses. Here's one of them, using the traditional vanilla tile set. I've got 4 beds in here in each corner with some sparse decorations, rugs on the ground, and some containers. I did this with just 1 floor piece. Check it out, it's just 1 floor tile on stilts with balconies snapped all the way around it. Makes a tidy, convenient, efficient little shack. Here's the next one, made the same way, with a few more decorations. Oops. Looks like settlers are going to get stuck in this corner. Wonder how they'll get up out of there. Not sure. Then over here, I've got my artillery cannon. I'm trying to have one of these at each of my settlements to maximize the area that my Minuteman artillery can reach. Now, here's something I had to put together. The pylons that we get in the game are really short. And I've got these areas where I wanted to string electricity between these two houses, but if I had strung it from there to there, the wire would have hung all the way down, touching the ground. And if I had put one of those tiny little pylons there, then since this is a slope, we would have again had a problem of the wire almost touching the ground. So I stacked a bunch of these wooden pillars from Far Harbor on top of each other, making this cube that goes up. And then at the very top, I've got one little pylon. So that pushed it up way off the ground so that it's not draping on the ground anymore, making it safe for settlers. I then wanted to make it look a little bit nicer, to segment the residential areas from the business areas. I see this entertainment shack being for settlers only. However, it is the only... no, it's not the only bar. That's right, we have another bar down there. So yeah, I was seeing this as being mainly for settlers. So I segmented it off by placing this white picket fence around this little ridge right here. I kind of saw a ridge on the hillside, and it works more or less, although settlers are constantly trying to walk into it. Thankfully, they're not doing it right now, but I put a gate here and a lot of other places for them to walk through it so that they try not to get so stuck. Then over here, we've got the final house. This is another Far Harbor cottage. And in here, I figured I'd give them some lockers. Make things a little bit different. One locker for each settler. And then they each have their own little bed with decorations on the wall. Here's the barn. This is the Brahmin barn. I have two Brahmin. Not sure where the second one went. I tried to capture a third, but for some reason, no matter how many days I waited, the third never arrived in my trap. So I've only got two. I've got 3 troughs down here because I do intend to get that third Brahmin. 3 Brahmin maximize your fertilizer production. You can't produce more fertilizer per day than what 3 Brahmin can produce. So 3 Brahmin is really the max you should have in a settlement. So I built these guys this little barn, and then I used these hay bales from Nuka World, which I realize are just props. They're not real hay, but they look real enough. And hey, if you don't know they're just props, then, well, I guess I shouldn't have mentioned it. Never mind. So they're just props, whatever. But yeah, there's their little farm, and then here's my water production. These from a Wasteland Workshop are just wonderful. They produce so much more water, and you don't have to have those pumps all over the place. So it's great for settlements like this that may be close to water, but they're not right on a lake. So they still produce all the water I need. And then here's my kennel. Animals, of course, produce settlement happiness. I think I have 3 cats here. You may have seen them wandering around. But I wanted to push my happiness all the way up to 100 by getting a bunch of dogs. I think I have 1 more dog than I really need. But I think it was 5 dogs that I needed. Anyway, you can use my settlement happiness calculator to calculate exactly how many dogs, cats, and other objects you will need to get 100 happiness, depending on how you want to build your settlement. For these guys, since I was running out of flat space, I built a little flat platform here with these supports for the kennel, and then on the kennel I just put a bunch of dog houses. I decorated them up with some doodads. I gave them some toys. This guy's got a teddy bear, and that's just a rolled up piece of leather. I figured it might make a nice chew toy. There's a Brahmin skull. I could have put down some human skulls. Well, I wanted to put down like a traditional looking bone, but the only ones I could find were human bones, and I didn't want these guys chewing on human bones. That's not really good for a Minuteman settlement, right? And so I put down a Brahmin skull, and they've got some alien toys. There's a baseball. There's a Deathclaw hand. I'm sure that's tasty. I'm sure they'd love to chew on that. Well, what are you doing? This guy's having a great time. At first, I thought he was leaping up on, jumping up onto the side of it like the way Dogmeat does at the Red Rocket truck stop. But nope, no, that's a glitch. So this swing came with the settlement, which I really like and I wanted to keep. I briefly thought about putting other playground equipment down here, but I couldn't find a mod that had the playground equipment I wanted, and I wanted to resist using mods for this build. I did use some mods, so if you try to import this into your settlement, you may need to download a few mods, but I tried to use DLC and vanilla assets as much as possible, so that if you didn't have the mods that I used, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. If you import this into your game, as long as you have the DLCs, all of the infrastructure should work for you. The only thing you might miss out on are a few decorations here or there where I used a mod. So that was my intent with building this settlement. So yeah, I didn't put down a playground for that reason. And then the final thing is down here. Settlers have to have a place to go to the bathroom. And so I built this little outhouse stand. Again, I didn't think that the Minutemen would be able to get concrete and big, steel pipes and plumbing down here. So instead, I have some outhouses, and I used these to light them. These are the big glowing bottles of nuclear waste from Far Harbor that look really great at night. It looks like it's getting dark now, so we can see what the settlement is like at night. I've got some inside the outhouses, and this outhouse. Whoop. This outhouse, sadly, has a broken door, so you can see right in. No privacy for this guy. Too bad. And I built it on top of this platform so that cleanup is a breeze. Just go down there and clean up the waste. Here's another tower. Now, we don't get attacked from this direction, but the reason I have this tower there is because you see that? Those are the corpses of glowing radstags that always spawn here. There are two because it's always a glowing radstag, and it's always right here. You kill one, come back a few days, a new one is right here. So yeah, a great way to harvest radstag meat for those radstag steaks, which improve your carrying capacity, but they always spawn here. So I've got that little turret stand over there. And there you have it. There's my little settlement. It's rainy all the time, so of course I feel right at home. After all, I'm from Seattle. I've got a Minuteman flag hanging out there, and look, the settlers are enjoying themselves by the fire. Even Trash Can Carla's getting in the spirit of things. Roasting. Is that Lucas? Why do I have three of them here? I've got Cricket, Lucas, and Trash Can Carla all here. These Bunker Hill caravan things are really glitchy. Look at that. It's too much. It's too much. And then the neon lights glow from the side of the building. Ah, that looks amazing. And of course, the best part, the spotlights out front. Makes you feel safe. Makes this place feel protected. Let's see, I wonder how many people have gone on over to the entertainment shack now that it's dark. People are walking around. And not a whole lot, a few people. Oh, she's sitting down to the bar, getting ready for a nice cold one. And there you go. That's my Somerville place. So as I said, I do have this available right now as a blueprint on the Nexus. So for those of you who watch, you can download this into your game and import it to make it your own. You can put your own decorations. There are some decorations you can use, but it's mainly bare bones. You can decorate it up any way you want, but now you've got the infrastructure in place. Transfer Settlements does support electricity, so all you got to do is import the blueprint and all your lights will work, all your turrets will work. You can even import all of the pets and the cattle so you don't have to catch them on your own. This is an interesting little settlement. There are a few things nearby on the top of the hill, just west of the settlement is this little concrete shack. We see a sentry bot in this cage out front, and there's a door on the other side that's locked with an advanced lock. As soon as we pick it, the sentry bot activates and comes out, guns blazing. Once the sentry bot is dead, we can go inside. Inside we find an end-of-dungeon steamer trunk and an explosives crate. That's just up the hill from this fun little settlement. Well, there you go. I hope I inspired you. I hope you like this. Nice. It's good to have a settlement build after all this time, so let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure you don't miss my next one, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop, folks. Show no mercy. We have the portrait on the front, as well as the text Show no mercy. It comes in an alternative version that says Ad Victoriam. And I have a version with just the text Ad Victoriam. My shirts come in a variety of colors and in a wide array of sizes. You can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.